All right, welcome back to Coffee Break, guys. We're continuing our E3 series, and this time around we're going to be talking about the Sony Conference. And there was a lot at the Sony Conference, and so I'm concerned about how much you're going to be able to fit into our small little video here. But to start out, Janet, I actually just wanted to direct the question to you. What was your favorite? Well, I don't want to do that one necessarily. We talked about that before, but I guess so. I'm going to direct this to a specific game that I was really interested in, which was Detroit Become Human. It's the first one I think I want to talk about. And I think that for me, this is the game that makes me need to get a PlayStation. And I am an Xbox person. So for me, Detroit Become Human is this amazing looking game. Super strange, super weird. From the trailer, it's not even totally clear what all the game is going to entail besides just this one moment in time, where you see the android on the roof with the little girl, and then of course you're Connor, the other android, trying to talk him down. And it's clear that you can do some remixing here and there, and sort of like play around with your different options and what the outcomes are from that, is what I got from the trailer. I'm not sure how expansive that is, like if there's other moments that are going on in the game, or if that's just the one moment, the whole game's based on that one moment. I don't know if you have any thoughts on what you think the game will be about overall, or just what you're excited about for the game, or if you don't like it. I don't know what your opinion is on it yet.
This was also, I feel like, so I recently did, on Big Cast, we talked about, which is the Big Cultures podcast, we talked about E3 and a bunch of different things, and like in the chats, obviously, you see that we always talk about E3, or like what people are excited about, and this was also the game I was most excited about. Even though obviously God of War is kind of gets an automatic most excitement because it's God of War, and that's exciting, and it looks like it's going to be like a little different, which is always good because you don't want to fall into that. I kind of call it the Ratchet and Clank syndrome of like another game, kind of the same of all the games. So that one was interesting, but this one was most interesting to me, and I'm really glad you brought it up because I feel like no one is talking about it enough, and I don't understand why people aren't talking about it more. It looks super interesting. For me, I think we're drawn to this for similar reasons. We've mentioned a lot in the channel, especially recently, that we're both English majors. So there's something really fascinating about that unconventional narrative structure in games. And now that I've kind of, as of recent, I've been getting more interested in story-based games, which is new for me. I've never done story-based or narrative-driven games until I think a couple months ago. I think my first one was Gone Home, was the first one that was more story-driven than action-driven. So ever since then, I've kind of caught the bug for that, and I really enjoy games that allow you to choose different options, and that changes the outcome. So I recently played, what was it? The One Night Stand Simulator game, which was which was actually really interesting, and it had different, so it has 7 different endings. So I've noticed with these narrative games, typically there's only kind of a couple endings, and then you think of unconventional narrative structure in other games Binding of Isaac has kind of, I think, different endings as well, and there's different combinations. And for our math people, we know if you have 7 things, you can mix them in so many ways that it's 7 factorial, which is 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So there's a cajillion different, for non-math people, a cajillion different outcomes. So what draws me to this is it seems like it's going to be that, but way more souped up with so many different combinations. And at first I also thought the game might just be that one moment for the whole game, which I think would also be cool, but the thing that makes me think differently, and I'm kind of watching the trailer a little bit in the corner of us talking about this, is there's that moment in the trailer when it zooms out and you kind of see this big map of the ways your life could go. So it makes me think that everything is and I'm blown away if this is actually what the game is, because from and once again, don't know anything about game development, but from a developmental standpoint, I'm how did you make, but I also am blown away by anything game developing wise, but I'm how did you make all these different branches of ways this can come out, and maybe it is just that one moment souped up. It's really unclear from the trailer now that I'm looking at it, because they have the different things you intimidate, and they all tie in different ways, and it's you can't read it completely. I know one of them is labeled as bad choice, which I think is interesting, because it's I think a lot of times in these games it's trying to be even though sometimes there's a clear answer on what's the best thing, that it's kind of trying to be like impartial. So it's interesting that that's there also. So yeah, I'm just really drawn. This is the game that I'm like, I need to buy the PS4 to play this game because because it's so interesting to me. It's so different. And I think it is probably one of the riskier titles that I saw at Sony. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that for this game, I think you're right about the map. That was the moment I was thinking of, too, when I was like, well, maybe there's more to it, because you really see that there's like all these different branches of way things could go. And I honestly haven't looked into the game much more than the actual trailer yet, just because things have been busy, but I'm in my head, I'm thinking what would be really cool is if, like, you know, it's a really long stream of things, and then you can get to a different ending, you know, of the game. So maybe that roof scene is like the climax of the story or something, or it's a big part of the story, but there's other stuff that leads up to it or comes after it, and maybe you don't even get to that point, you know, if you make different decisions throughout the game. I'm not sure how that would work, but I really want a game where they let your choices have consequences, and not just in an unmeaningful way. And I would guess I would point to a lot of BioWare games, like Mass Effect, for example. As much as I love Mass Effect, a lot of times your real choices don't have a lot of impact. I mean, sometimes it can happen that, you know, if you don't take care of things, like in Mass Effect 2, if you don't take care of your ship well enough or whatever, that, like, parts of it could get destroyed and then one of your teammates is dead or something. But a lot of that it's not really based off an actual choice you made. It's more about training and things like that. And then when it comes to, like, actual decisions, you know, where you're met with a decision, it has consequences, but they're not always like game-ending consequences, I guess. It's like, oh, well, you can take this path or this path, and I do think that BioWare does a good job of having your choices be meaningful, but not always like crazy impactful to the actual plot. I want something that totally screws up the whole story, you know, and like takes it in a whole other direction. And I kind of see this as being something that's willing to do that, and I'm hoping that's true. So I guess we'll see as far as that's concerned. It actually does remind me a little bit of a game I didn't like, and I reviewed for Bit Cultures. It was Remember Me, and they have the one thing I did like about the game was that it has all these like remixing memories things, you know, where like you could go into someone's memory and change it just enough so they think something else happened, and then they behave differently based on that changed memory. And I thought that was so cool, and it was the best mechanic of the game, and it happens like 4 times only in the whole game. So it was nice to see something similar in a game that I think I might actually end up liking overall. But on that note, I might kick it to you and see if there was something else that really stood out to you from the Sony conference, since I started out with the Detroit Become Human. There's a lot of other stuff I want to talk about too, but I don't want to hog it with all my opinions, so.
I feel like a lot stood out from the Sony conference. Honestly, this conference was like incredible. It was just, you know, I kind of am kind of over the whole like who won E3 thing, but since we still do it, I'm just going to do it. It was Sony. Like, it was just because I feel like, you know, for me as a somewhat impartial consumer, obviously I have, once again, as I've mentioned before, I got the Nintendo Sony bias when it comes to consoles, but I'm still always looking, especially nowadays with specifically with Sony and Microsoft, with them being so similar in what AAA titles they get, which, you know, Nintendo doesn't get any of the mainstream AAAs, and Sony and Microsoft get most of the same ones. So for me, it's really those few exclusives that are gonna, like, you know, push me over the edge, because, like, you know, other than that, I'm like, well, I can play, you know, Overwatch on my Xbox and Overwatch on my PS4, so why do I really need both? So last year, as I mentioned before, I got the Xbox One, but this year is definitely the year where I'm like, okay, I gotta get a PS4, because there's just so many titles. God of War stood out, as I mentioned, just because I feel like it seems like they're going to be kind of refreshing the series, with, like, the whole, like, Kratos' son, and I'm like, I wonder if you play as the son. Like, I really hope that's what's going on there. Though I heard someone say that it looked like what they might do is, like, do a button mapping thing where one of the buttons is the sun, so it's like a co-op kind of thing, kind of like a Last of Us style of gameplay, where you have, like, that companion that goes along with you, which also I didn't play Last of Us, so maybe that's not how the gameplay goes. But, yeah, so that seems interesting. It also seems like this kind of, like, co-op or playing as 2 characters seems to be, like, a little bit of a trend that's happening, so that's kind of interesting to, like, I know in our Nintendo one we talked about different trends leaking into kind of set video game series and how that can be refreshing. So God of War was amazing. I love the fact they had an orchestra at the Sony conference. That was incredible.
Classy.
Right? Yeah, and it just made everything so, like, much more impactful. And I think that was a way more interesting choice than Microsoft's, like, weather effects, which were cute, but, like, it didn't really, like, add a lot, you know, as someone who's, like, watching it, especially not actually there watching it. I guess I'm curious about two things from you. How you feel about Horizon Zero Dawn, which is another game I'm really excited about. And then also, because I'm not sure what your relationship with Hideo Kojima is, do you play any of his games? Are you excited for Death Stranding? Kind of what's going on your side of things with those two games?
Okay, yeah. So Horizon Zero Dawn is another reason why I need the PlayStation. And just really fast to touch on something you mentioned previously before I get into Horizon Zero Dawn, is that, you know, I do feel before that it was definitely kind of, you only needed the one console, you know, once you got that split after the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, when you got to the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, you didn't need both. I think we might be getting back to a time where you do need both, especially because of all the exclusives they've been talking about lately. And so for me, I'm gonna get the PlayStation because I have to have a PlayStation. Part of it is because of Horizon Zero Dawn. It looks amazing, and it's another game with a female protagonist and robots. And we saw one of those earlier in E3 too, and I'm like, this is a great trend. Can we continue this trend? I'm really excited about that game. It's a beautiful setting. Like, it's just, the graphics are so pretty, everything's so bright, and I love her hair. So I definitely want to play that. She kind of reminds me of, like, Merida from Brave is what she reminds me of.
She totally reminded me of that too.
Yeah.
Like picture image, like spitting image, whatever the word is. Yeah,
like she was
exactly
just older
like her.
Or something. Yeah, and she's like this, like, wild boss ass, you know, female protagonist, and I'm really excited to play as her. So looking forward to that. It seems right up my alley, just with the kind of genre and the setting. So we're gonna see how that goes. And then as far as Death Stranding is concerned, Stranding is concerned.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, Death Stranding. Yeah, it's not a great title.
No, it's pretty bad.
And the trailer was really weird. And I haven't played a lot of other games from this developer, but I have watched a lot of Walking Dead, and so it's really weird for me to see Daryl as a video game character, and he's not playing Daryl. So I thought that was really weird. I didn't understand what was going on ever with the baby and, like, just the weird things in the sky and the handprints all over him. Like, I don't know what's happening in the game. I don't know what it's about. So I'm gonna kind of, like, reserve my judgment of whether or not I'm gonna play it until I actually know what it is, because I really, like, right now it seems like a sort of like a like a trendy, like, art installment from your, you know, really hippie friend at your liberal arts college kind of thing. Not that I'm opposed to that, because I've been to those and I have those friends, but still.
That is the best description of the trailer I've ever heard.
So I'm not going to say whether, you know, too much about it, because I don't know what it is, but I still don't know if I can get over playing as Daryl. And I mean, the guy's a great actor, and I don't want to, like, box him in, but I mean, it's Daryl, so I don't think I can do it. Yeah, so, but what about you? What do you think of Death Stranding? Since you're the one who brought it up, did you have strong feelings about it, or?
Yeah, I just felt like it needed to be talked about because it was, like, so there, you know? And then also, I think it was one of the few trailers that was way heavier on the cinematicness of it. Like, I know Detroit Become Human, it was kind of hard to tell, like, how much of that is a cutscene and then how much is like, it's kind of clear when you get the gameplay because you get to choose, you know, what you say or do. But, like, before that, it was kind of more of a cutscene. And it's kind of, like, it's less gameplay oriented. So I guess I'll start with Death Stranding, and then I want to kind of jump back really quick to Horizon Zero Dawn.
Sure.
But for Death Stranding, I don't know. I mean, I'll probably get it because it's Hideo Kojima, and, like, you will follow, like, well, not you, obviously, but, like, we will follow this man into the sun. Like, we didn't know if he would ever do another video game because he kind of said he was, like, out, you know, he was kind of done with what he was the stuff he works on. So he definitely, like, Jay-Z'd it, you know? Like, he's like, oh, I dropped the Black Album, and now I'm done. And then, you know, he came back, and you're like, oh, I kind of knew that you'd be back, but it's still nice that you're here, because I wasn't sure. The main thing that stood out to me about Death Stranding is the fact that Hideo Kojima appeared on Magic Stairs. That was my favorite part of all of E3, because I love Hideo Kojima, and I love Magic Stairs. Like, I just want to walk into school the first day, like, on those stairs. But as far as the trailer, yeah, it's totally just a cinematic trailer, and I actually hate cinematic trailers, which, once again, I feel like we can do a whole talk on just what we want from, like, video game trailers and things. Because they don't tell me anything about anything. Right. I mean, I guess, like, and maybe that's my, tendency to lean more on gameplay than story, but, like, I'm just getting, like, it was kind of like a weird horror. I'm just getting, like, images of things, and, you know, I'm like, okay, he's, like, naked, and there's, like, something on his wrist, and there's, like, oil everywhere. I think it's just inviting those weird video game blog think pieces about, like, 7 Easter eggs you didn't see in the Death Stranding trailer.
Oh, for sure.
You know? So, yeah, it definitely told me nothing about the game, but it's Hideo Kojima, so I'm like, okay, whatever. But I am hoping to hear more about it, because I want to know what the game actually is. I don't even know the genre of the game. We know nothing about this. It was very, like, vague, and just kind of, I don't know. I guess it's just there to show you there's something there. But for Horizon Zero Dawn, I found it really interesting that during the conference, they spent so much time on the game. They spent like 9, 10, 12 minutes on the game. So it kind of makes me feel like they were trying to make that their flagship game, which was just kind of interesting to me. That's my only comment on it. I just found that kind of curious because they went so much in depth on it. Other than that, for things that stood out in the conference, so when Crash Bandicoot, have you played Crash Bandicoot? Like, are you, like, okay, so then you're, like, kind of with me on where I'm gonna go. So, like, when, I felt like what happened to you with the whole, was it with, what game was it? Was it not Elder Scrolls? Was it, which game got remastered in, like, I forgot what conference it came up in, but you're like, that's not what we wanted.
Oh, no, okay. It was Skyrim.
It was Skyrim, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That feeling you described, that's what I felt like. Like, dude came out, and I heard the music, and I got, like, emotional immediately. Like, just went straight into, like, I forgot what part of your brain does emotions and things, but it, like, connected right there. I don't remember the parts of the brain, because I forgot AP Psychology. But I was like, okay, emotional. And then, so I feel like I knew it immediately. I'm like, Crash, it's Crash Bandicoot. I was, like, typing on chat to everybody, and no one in the crowd was reacting yet. And then the shadow appeared of he was Crash, which also I've always wanted to have Crash's shadow appear behind me. I didn't know that until the E3. But I was like, it's Crash! And then I was just, like, you know, frantic. And then everyone's finally like, hey, it's Crash! And I'm like, that's what I've been screaming at the TV! And then I'm like, all right. And then he's like, you're gonna get Crash 1, Crash 2, and Crash 3 remastered. And I'm like, that's not what I want! But okay. So I don't know if I'll get the remaster. And I don't care about Skylanders at all. Also, Skylanders Crash looks really hideous. Hope it doesn't look like that for the remasters.
Yeah. But
yeah, I'm really hoping that they eventually do something with, you know, getting, like, did you really fight for this just to remaster it? What is the point? So that wasn't that. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, and maybe touching on even a little bit, like, remaster culture, like how, you know, what does that do for you personally? Like, are you excited about remasters? Like, what are your feelings towards that?
For me, so as far as Crash Bandicoot goes, I mean, I'm not that excited for the remaster because, I mean, I played the games when I was younger, but I wasn't obsessed with them or anything, you know, they were just, like, games that we had around the house, you know, and so for me, it wasn't that exciting. I might have been excited if it was, like, something brand new, but it was not, and then, just remaster culture in general, I think as just a general rule, I kind of prefer a remaster to happen when a game has reached a point where it's very inaccessible to a modern audience, I guess. So, like one of my things with the Skyrim remaster was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm definitely going to get this, and I'm definitely going to play it, especially with the mods and stuff they're bringing to the game, but if you're going to remaster an Elder Scrolls game, why are you doing the most recent one? Because there's so many other ones that are, like Like, I can't even play Morrowind, which is the third game that came out on the Xbox, because it's so glitchy. It's so glitchy on my Xbox, and it like just and makes it impossible for my Xbox to run, and I can't play it even though it was a great game. And so they should have remastered that one, or one of the first or the second one, which I've actually never played because I don't have a way to play them. And so I think that's when you have an audience that wants to play a game that can't. That's when you do a remaster to bring it to the new gen. Not when everyone's still playing Skyrim, like right now, the one you already released. I think a good example is Pokemon and Resident Evil. I think they both do that pretty well. Resident Evil, they just did a remaster of the first game, I think maybe a year ago, and it was great. It was really amazing. And they even changed some stuff in the game, which was really surprising to me and my siblings because we were kind of playing the game and we thought we knew what to do. But the rules had changed slightly, and so we got ourselves in a whole bunch of trouble because the zombies were behaving differently than they were supposed to. And so that was a nice surprise. And you know, for a game that I haven't been able to play because it's on my PlayStation 1 and I don't have a memory card that works anymore, you know, it was nice to be able to play it on my, I think we had it on the Xbox. Yeah, so that was crazy. And that's the only time I think you need a remaster.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I know I was talking to my brother about this earlier because, you know, we talk about video games all the time, and I was mentioning how I was like so salty at the Crash remaster, and I'm like, I don't know if I'll get it. I mean, like maybe, like, I mean, it will definitely play nicer than it did on its original console because, of course. And then he's like, well, are you ever excited about remasters? And I'm like, I guess not. You know, I'm just like a cynical, hateful person. But yeah, I think what he was talking about it, and he's like, I feel like there needs to be like a certain amount of time that passed, like 10 years or something, you know, like something significant. Or else you're just kind of like regurgitating the same stuff over and over again. And then I feel like it kind of ends up like inadvertently giving like companies a pass of like, oh, you can just remaster this. You don't have to make something new. You can just remaster Super Mario Sunshine. It's like, no, you can't. I want Super Mario Sunshine 2, and that's all I've ever wanted. Waiting for that. I'm hoping the NX has that because I'm hoping it'll just have some surprises. But so my other question is, I want to talk a little bit about Resident Evil 7, somewhat specifically in relation to VR, and then also kind of like dipping into the fact that Sony was really big on VR during this E3. They talked about it more than I think literally any other conference that happened, including the ones from like smaller, like I guess publishers would be the word, so like Ubisoft and things. Everyone talked a little bit about VR, but it feels like it was really at the forefront, or at least one of the things at the forefront of what Sony was pushing this year for E3. So how do you feel about the new Resident Evil, and how do you feel about the VR aspect of it? And then we can kind of maybe after that jump into a little bit on VR in general for Sony.
Sure. So I'm really excited about the direction they're taking for Resident Evil 7, at least from what I can tell from what they've released so far. A complaint of mine and a complaint of a lot of the fans of the series is that the most recent games have been more action-based than horror-based, because the original games were very scary. I mean, even though it was like 8-bit scary, you know, like it was still scary. And I'm always going to have that memory of that first stupid zombie, and I know I talk about it all the time, but I'm never going to get over it. It was the most terrifying thing in my whole life when I was like 4 and trying to play Resident Evil, you know, because all my siblings were, and I couldn't get past the first zombie because it was that terrifying, you know. And they sort of lost that, you know, especially going into 5 and 6. I think 4 is the last one I would say is actually scary, you know, for a game, even though that itself is not as scary as some of the previous ones. And so I could see them getting back into the creepy factor with this new trailer. You know, without more gameplay, it's hard to tell exactly how like the action side of it's going to be. But I'm hoping that it's going to sort of harken back to the origins of the series. And as far as VR goes, I think that for me, and this is a horrible idea. I don't know why I would wish this on myself, but I think that VR is best with horror games. That's the only reason I'm really interested in VR. That's the first time I really heard about VR was with horror games, and I think that's the best use for it because now you're in it. You know, you're in your worst nightmare. You know, you can't. It's not like you could just leave the screen. I can't do what I did when I was 4. I can't, you know, throw the controller and sprint out of the room. It's on my head. You know, it's there. So I don't. I think that would be amazing. And that is one reason why I'm wanting to consider VR a bit more, and that's another reason why I'm leaning more towards PlayStation lately is because they're all about it. So
Yeah, for me, it's really interesting because I'm kind of outside for both these things. I'm a huge VR skeptic. Anyone who knows me, that's like I like rep it hard. Like I rep the skepticism hard. But I also don't play horror at all. But as of like the last year, I've inadvertently / sometimes intentionally, I've been trying to expand my genres because I think that just makes it more interesting, and I think it makes me like a more knowledgeable and like gamer, and then it just helps with writing about games, and I want to like be more diverse with it. So I think I might actually maybe get Resident Evil. I think my brother would want Resident Evil, so that's how I'm justifying it. I'm like, I can get it, and then he can play it if I don't play it. Yeah, because I don't do horror, because horror makes me tense, and I don't like I don't watch scary movies. I've only watched one scary movie my whole life, and it was Amityville Horror, and I watched it when I was decently young, and I watched it in the daytime with like all the sunshine pouring in, and I watched it on a very small TV, and I was with my brother. Like it was very like cushiony, and I was still like, this is scary. So, but I'm willing to try just for the sake of trying it, and I like that fans like you who know the series more are excited about it, because then it means like, okay, now I can kind of jump on the train. I don't have to go through the games that were disappointing. I can just jump in, hopefully on a better level. Yeah, VR is really. Have you tried VR yet?
No.
Yeah, neither have I. That's okay. What's one of my issues with it? Like, I haven't, and I was talking to Laura about it from Big Cultures because she went to E3, and she's tried it a couple times, and she's like, she mentioned that they are going to set up stuff in GameStop where you can like try it out, which hopefully, yeah, I'm like, you need, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm buying, because at least and maybe this is getting into like what could be a whole nother video, but at least with like, if we think of gaming history, the console was marketed as a home arcade. So you had an idea of like, oh, this is, like they say in like, so I have an education major, I'm going to teaching, and they say when you're trying to teach someone something, you want to build on something they already know because it makes it easier to acquire the new information. So with the home console, they're like, it's like an arcade at home, and people were like, okay, and eventually that became a thing. With VR, it's like amazing, and it's immersive, and I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know what this is like. It could just be lies. So,
right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I do like, though, that, because I'm open to, new things in the industry, even though I think they're going to fail. I'm like, whatever, live your dream, Sony. But I guess I like that at least Sony, I think Sony has the best chance at succeeding in VR, though, because they're attaching it to AAA titles that have pull. So, like, Resident Evil, like, a lot of people are really, when you think Sony VR, it's like Resident Evil, I feel like it's kind of what's starting to connect, which is good because people like Resident Evil. So I think that's going to help them. I think there's a VR function also in, like, one of the Batman games that's coming out, or there's like something going on with that, and then I don't know if there's any other AAAs they've tied to VR from the conference. I can't really remember, but I like that they're doing that because it gives it like a more reason to get the VR, though also it's like, well, if it's just kind of an add-on, $400 for an add-on, kind of a lot. But so we'll see how that goes. But I was really intrigued by how much they like kind of bumped it. And I think a little concerned too in some ways because we all know the Kinect did horribly. And the Wii did well, but at the cost of like losing respect of like fans everywhere. So like, and then the sticks from Sony's little stick things. I didn't even know they had those. Like I missed that part of like gaming history. The little wand things. Didn't even know that was a thing.
Me neither.
Yeah, but like motion control failed. So I'm kind of, I don't know. I guess like we're always trying to do new things in gaming, and it's like, I don't know. Like some of it is like, I don't know if I asked for you for that. I don't think I needed that. But that's cool, I guess, is kind of where I'm at. Because I don't know if I want to be that immersed in my games either. Like, we live in, like I can't check my phone now because I got, like, a headset on. It's just kind of, like,
right.
It's a little extra, I think, in some ways. So I'm not sure how it's going to work long term, especially because people that have tried out VR, typically it's not like they have, unless you're, like, a tech person, you don't get VR and get to use it for, like, a month. It's like you try it on at an expo and you're like, that was cool. I'm like, was the $400 cool? Like, can I commit to that? I don't know. But yeah, that definitely really stood out to me from Sony's conference. So yeah, any other closing thoughts on things from Sony that stuck out, or games that you're looking forward to?
No, I think we got pretty much everything that I was concerned about. I'm sure we'll get, in our next video, I'm sure we'll get into more of the things that we didn't ask for from the gaming industry. So
yeah, absolutely.